Welcome to Hollywood. In this video, we're going to explore the hidden struggles behind the glamour and spotlight, 17 Golden Age Hollywood actors who were mentally sick. 1. Vivian Lee. Vivian Lee, best known for her Oscar-winning role as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, endured a lifelong struggle with bipolar disorder. Her illness, then termed manic depression, caused severe mood swings that affected both her personal and professional life. During periods of mania, she was intensely creative and charming, but during depressive episodes, she became withdrawn and emotionally unstable. Lee was hospitalized multiple times and underwent electroconvulsive therapy. Despite her brilliance, her illness led to the gradual deterioration of her career and her marriage to Laurence Olivier. 2. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was not only a stunning talent but also a deeply tormented soul. Following a car accident in 1956, Clift became addicted to alcohol and prescription drugs. He struggled with depression, anxiety, and an overwhelming fear of inadequacy, exacerbated by Hollywood's pressure to stay closeted about his sexuality. Friends described the last decade of his life as the longest suicide in Hollywood. Despite his inner turmoil, Clift delivered unforgettable performances in films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity. 3. Judy Garland. A beloved icon of Hollywood, Judy Garland's mental health issues were widely documented. Pushed into show business at an early age, she was given amphetamines by MGM to keep up her energy and sleeping pills to rest. This cycle led to addiction, which in turn caused severe mood disorders, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. Garland was hospitalized multiple times and made several suicide attempts. She spent much of her life in emotional agony, ultimately dying of a barbiturate overdose in 1969. 4. Jean Tierney. Jean Tierney was one of the most stunning actresses of her time, but she suffered from schizophrenia. Her mental illness was triggered in part by the trauma of giving birth to a daughter with severe disabilities, likely caused by Tierney contracting rubella during pregnancy. Tierney was hospitalized and received treatments that included shock therapy. She withdrew from acting for years and worked in department stores under assumed names during recovery. Her later years were more stable, but the shadows of her mental illness lingered. 5. Frances Farmer. Frances Farmer became the poster child for institutional abuse in the mid-20th century. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, she was committed multiple times to psychiatric hospitals where she was subjected to cruel treatments, including forced insulin comas and possibly even a lobotomy. Her defiance of Hollywood norms and authority figures only exacerbated her mistreatment. Farmer's tragic life inspired many books, films, and a growing awareness of mental health injustices. 6. Tony Perkins. Famous for his chilling role as Norman Bates in Psycho, Tony Perkins battled intense anxiety, self-loathing, and guilt stemming from his sexuality and religious upbringing. Perkins often lived in fear of being outed, and he internalized shame to the point of breakdowns. He also underwent therapy to try to change his orientation, which only deepened his emotional instability. His mental distress was largely hidden from the public eye, but it deeply influenced his performances and relationships. 7. Rita Hworth. The love goddess of the 1940s, Rita Hworth suffered from undiagnosed early-onset Alzheimer's disease, but even before that, she battled depression and alcoholism. The emotional toll of 5 failed marriages and Hollywood's exploitation of her image left her exhausted and disillusioned. In her final years, she struggled with memory loss, mood swings, and paranoia, though it wasn't until the 1980s that she was correctly diagnosed with Alzheimer's. 8. Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers, known for his versatility and comedic genius, suffered from a borderline personality disorder. He was known to rapidly switch moods and personas, both on and off the screen. Friends and colleagues described him as deeply insecure, manipulative, and emotionally erratic. His mental instability caused repeated marital breakdowns and erratic behavior on set. Sellers' mental health remained undiagnosed for much of his life, but his personal torment was well known to those close to him. 9. Clara Bo. The original It Girl of the silent era, Clara Bo was overwhelmed by fame and public scrutiny. She suffered from what would today likely be diagnosed as severe anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder stemming from childhood abuse. Her career was derailed by breakdowns and erratic behavior. Bo eventually withdrew from public life and spent her remaining years in relative seclusion, often overwhelmed by fears and paranoia. 10. Ray Miland. Ray Miland, the Oscar-winning actor of The Lost Weekend, struggled with alcoholism, depression, and intense paranoia in the latter half of his life. Although he portrayed alcoholics convincingly on screen, his personal battles were far from fictional. As he aged, Miland withdrew from public appearances, becoming increasingly reclusive. His drinking and mental health issues deeply affected his family and work. 11. Marilyn Monroe. A legend whose face is iconic even today, Marilyn Monroe battled severe depression, anxiety, and addiction. Orphaned and abused as a child, Monroe struggled with feelings of worthlessness her entire life. She was often sedated to sleep and used drugs to cope with emotional instability. Despite undergoing therapy and psychiatric treatment, Monroe never found lasting peace. Her mysterious death in 1962 remains a symbol of the tragic cost of fame. 12. Anthony Perkins. While Tony Perkins is already mentioned, his legacy bears deeper inspection. Beyond anxiety, Perkins lived with chronic depression and fear due to societal pressures. His covert sexual relationships and attempts at conversion therapy added layers to his mental strain. He lived a double life, publicly charming but privately tormented. 13. Jean Seabourg. Jean Seabourg was hounded by the FBI during the COINTELPRO era for her support of civil rights groups. The psychological warfare led to her unraveling. She attempted suicide multiple times and was plagued by depression and paranoia. Her mysterious death in 1979, ruled a probable suicide, revealed just how deeply she had been affected by surveillance and harassment. 14. Linda Darnell. Linda Darnell, best remembered for her role in Forever Amber, suffered from alcoholism and emotional breakdowns in her later years. After her career declined, she faced financial ruin, depression, and loneliness. She died in a tragic house fire, but her life in the preceding years was marked by psychological torment and isolation. 15. Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier, though one of the most respected actors of his era, dealt with bouts of clinical depression throughout his career. He masked his struggles behind discipline and professionalism but often broke down in private. Olivier was deeply affected by the breakdown of his marriage with Vivian Lee and struggled with feelings of guilt and helplessness. 16. Buster Keaton. The legendary silent film star Buster Keaton suffered from depression and alcoholism, especially after his career hit a low in the 1930s. Once hailed for his physical comedy and stoic expression, Keaton's personal life was in chaos. He was institutionalized briefly and went through a painful divorce before slowly rebuilding his life. 17. Gail Russell. Gail Russell's career was plagued by crippling stage fright and anxiety. To calm her nerves, she turned to alcohol, which led to a downward spiral. Her promising career was cut short by her dependency and eventual reclusiveness. Russell died alone in her apartment at age 36, a tragic ending to a life haunted by fear and insecurity. These stories remind us that behind the bright lights of Hollywood's golden age, many actors bore heavy burdens. Their struggles with mental illness were real, and in many cases, ignored or exacerbated by the very system meant to uplift them. Let their stories be a call for empathy and a reminder that fame does not shield one from suffering. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on the video if you found this deep dive into old Hollywood meaningful. Thank you for watching Hollywood Actions.